Welcome to another episode of Cruising with the Clemons. My name is Mark,
And I'm Jen.
and this week we are talking about driving in dangerous road conditions.
Daddy, how's the drive been today?
Well, we started around 9:30, and it is 4:30, and we have a half hour to go. And it's looked like this all day. So hasn't been super fun. So we got stopped at a rest stop by the guy who happens to be right in front of us now, like hours later. But we were following this 18-wheeler, and when we stopped at a rest stop, and he stopped there too, and he got out and asked me what I was doing because we'd been following him so long, and he's like, "I'm hauling hazardous materials. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm heading west." And he was like, "I gotta ask because I'm hauling hazardous." Like, I guess he thought like we were casing them to like steal it, or I don't know. But he didn't like my answer at first, and I was like, okay, well, my kid's in the bathroom, and we're heading out west. And he was like, okay. It was a weird interaction.
I mean, we literally have a truck full of kids and cats, and
Yeah. So I am curious to what he was hauling now, but I don't know. So that was probably the most exciting thing that happened all day.
how excited are you that we're almost here?
Getting off at the exit right now.
Okay, so I just checked in. I picked this campground because they have a cafe on the property, and we don't want to unhook tonight, and they have pizza. So I checked in. I put our order in for pizza. It'll be ready in about 25 minutes. So we'll just go and park and come back up and grab it, and yeah, that's it. And they take Good Sam's. So, all right, let's get out of here. We're under winter weather water, which means we need to just put some water in our tank and then unhook again. So,
It's cold.
yep, it is 32 degrees out
And dropping.
and dropping. So we're gonna try and do this really quick. All right.
We're set up. Fastest setup ever, because all this stuff's just kind of staying where it normally is. These pumpkins were on our bed, so they had to come out.
Yeah.
We got 2, 3 heaters going and the furnace. Because
Yeah.
it's 32 degrees in here, so
Yeah.
gotta heat it up for the kitties.
It's so cold that the kitties don't want to be on the floor because the floors are like for
They're
freezing.
literally like icicles.
Mommy,
Yeah.
they need little bootsies. Biddy,
They don't need
was,
boots.
Biddy was literally standing in front of the heater where the cat.
Yeah,
water-
we've got
Yeah.
Biddy's heater in the microwave right now, so we can give her a heater. Pancake will probably go get in her bed.
How cold is it?
It's like probably below 30 now. But it's cold enough that I got out my thing from Frankenmuth.
You look like an Eskimo.
Thank you.
If you had mucklucks on, you'd be outfit complete.
Don't be jelly because I'm so warm now. Okay.
It's day 2 of our travel. So, 24 degrees this morning. And we were planning our route this morning. And there are snow advisories near Denver that could impact our travel. So I think we're going to head a little bit north. It actually saves us some money in avoiding tolls. And because of the wind advisories, the wind's going to be coming out of the north, which puts it on our broadside. So we're going to head a little bit north earlier and then over to avoid Denver, the snow, and hopefully beat back some of that wind. So
And you should tell everybody what app we use for wind on the
yeah,
road.
so for the wind, because wind's a big deal, our camper's like almost 40 feet overall. So that's a lot of surface area to catch wind. So we're using an app called Windy. We also use another one called Predict Wind. Windy seems a little, excuse me. Windy seems a little bit more user-friendly for people on land, where Predict Wind's more for people on boats, but it obviously will work on land. So Windy, you can click into any spot and see what your wind gusts are, sustained winds, all that good stuff. You can see it over time. So really nice way to get an idea of what's going to go on, because we're not going to be too far from Cheyenne, Wyoming, where we saw campers and stuff flipped over last year when we were there. So a little bit more cautious this morning. What happened?
So it was so cold last night. The water we left in the cat's dish during the car ride completely frozen.
Yeah, can you pop it out? Not completely frozen,
No,
but mostly frozen.
We were like rushing to get out of here, and I forgot to turn the furnace off. The awning somehow was out. It's just one of those when we rush and don't follow our normal routine. Anyway, all right, we are definitely ready to get on the road. They still get so excited even for just this little bit of flurry. They're so excited. Can you not throw the dirty snow though? Gross. All right, no eating and driving today. All right, are you feeling a little nervous about having to drive? We've driven the truck in snow.
Yeah.
We've driven where snow has gone. But this
Yep.
is like active snow and wind today.
So this is a light snowstorm, but we're only 18 miles down the road or 14 miles down the road from where we started. And the snow's picked up significantly. So all we're doing today is heading into the snowstorm. So it was a little bit concerning. I actually called 511 for information on the road conditions while I was pumping gas. It did not say anything about bad conditions. It just gave me like construction on I-70. So we're gonna proceed. We'll see how it goes.
So far, our travels have been a little sketchy this morning. We've hit a couple of little patches of black ice. It has now been a couple of weeks, and I thought that before we put this video, I wanted to take some time so we could think about what had happened, what we did, the decisions we made, and come back to it and see how we feel about it now. So,
Yeah.
you guys just saw where the camera kind of drops. That's because we just had hit a black patch or a black ice. and we hit probably like 2 or 3 of those.
I would say like 4 or 5.
Okay, and there was definitely times where we held breath going over those tiny little like overpass, little tiny bridge things, because there was always a, like it says on the thing, bridge may ice before road. That's legit.
So we started that first day of travel, no big deal. Conditions were fine. We were worried about that day, and it turned out to be absolutely fine.
It was boring more than anything.
Yeah, the second day through Kansas, that part about the wind and going north and stuff, that all went right out the window. It's about like 5 miles into our drive. The wind was bad, but it wasn't terrible across our broadside, so I thought we'd be getting pushed around a lot more, and we weren't. The worst part was the road conditions that was I-70.
Yeah.
I think it was I-70.
Through Kansas.
They just were not maintaining the roads. There was no snow plows, there's no salt, there was no maintenance on the roads at all. And so my plan to go north into the wind seemed like a terrible idea when we hit the road, because if they're not maintaining I-70, they're definitely not maintaining the back roads. So we ended up just staying on I-70 for the whole thing because it was the fastest route.
Right.
When we hit the black ice, that was a real scary moment. Nobody was around us. We swerved into the fast lane, and so we were like midway in between the lanes, kind of coasting over the overpass. And once that happened, I mean, I had been watching every overpass really closely and looking for any kind of ice, and just didn't see anything. We didn't have any problems on the 8 other overpasses we'd gone on, and then we hit that one and realized conditions were bad enough now that we slowed down to like 30 miles an hour or something like that.
Not that we were not driving fast to begin with, because the conditions weren't
that was
great.
Deteriorating, so you just slow down.
But it deteriorated so quickly that we dropped down even lower.
Yeah, it was like 20, 30 miles an hour for a good couple hours.
And every time we went over one of those little bridges, like I said, I held my breath.
Yeah.
But Mark did like an amazing job of maintaining the vehicle from like really losing control on that. But like, it had to have been so white-knuckled, nerve-wracking every time after that.
Well, it honestly happened so fast. 1 minute you're in your lane and you're just, you're driving in the slow lane that looks like it's pretty good. The next minute you're just sliding over to your left, because I assume it was the wind pushing us to the left, because, I tried to hit everyone as straight as possible and like not move the steering wheel just in case we started, sliding. And it just immediately, we were over. Now, the truck has like traction control and anti-sway control, which it engaged immediately. It hit the brakes probably before I did. And I didn't overreact, which was a good thing. So we didn't jackknife or anything. Like, we basically just slid for probably what was like a second and a half, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But felt like an eternity.
Yes.
And then we were grippy on the road again. And so it's like, okay, that just happened. So slow down even more so that won't happen. And then the next several overpasses we hit, we slid on all of them. Now, we stayed in our lane because we were going so slow. But
you could feel the tires.
Yeah, we were so scared we didn't film a lot of this. So
yeah,
we were paying attention and trying not to. So in the moment, we didn't film. But the crazy thing to me was the people around us. Because in the beginning, there was no one on the road. But as time went on, people started getting on the road. And like 18-wheelers would fly past us in the fast lane where there was no other tracks. Like anybody that was on the road was in the slow lane. So at least like the snow and stuff wasn't accumulating. You could follow someone else's tracks.
Yeah.
But in the fast lane, it was just getting icy and snowed over. And some people were hauling butt down the road.
We even had a 5th-wheeler like pass us like we were... I guess because we were standing still, essentially. We were not going fast enough.
So,
which is whatever, good for them, but like...
But it got bad enough that I told Jen, call ahead, let's get off the road. We're not going to make it to Denver.
So a lot of the times that we weren't filming is because I was looking for accommodations for us to get off the road right away. And I did find some place, and I had called them, and I am like, the conditions are deteriorating, and they're like, no problem, come in. But
full
the problem,
hookup.
Yeah, it was full hookup. The problem was we were still like 25 miles from it.
Yeah.
And so we still had to get, because if you've been on that stretch of I-70 between Kansas and Colorado, there are definitely stretches where towns are very few and far in between. and there's nothing. And so we still had to make it. Well, being only like we were still 25 miles from the campground. We were only another past that 15 miles from the Colorado-Kansas border.
So okay, let's keep going. We got to keep going. Let's not stop.
Then we cross over into Colorado from Kansas and determined, bless you, that Kansas just doesn't maintain the roads very well, because we immediately got into Colorado and they've got salt down. So the road conditions are much better. So we're still trying to make a decision if we're going to pull over and get off the road for the rest of the day or continue on. But here's what it looks like.
So as we approached Colorado, man, I believe there was like a state line overpass road.
Yeah.
And we went under that, and all of a sudden it was plowed. It was salted. Night and day difference. And all of a sudden, like, a lot of the concern is away. Okay, I feel like we can definitely get to this campground that we've booked now.
Yeah. The road got much better.
Yeah.
There were plows out. You could see that there was salt on the road.
If you've been on I-70 in that stretch, the Colorado highway section is full of potholes, and it's probably because they do such a good job of salting the road and stuff, or putting down rock, that it tears up the road. So the road conditions were unpleasant, but at least you had a ton of grip. And then that let us to decide, when we got to the exit to get off at that RV park, I said, the road conditions have improved. Yeah. I think we can make it.
I think by that time the snow had really had kind of stopped for a bit, and the wind was almost nominal at that point.
Yeah, the wind had died down. Yeah. So it seemed like things were improving. So we made the decision to continue on. Now, because the road conditions improved, everyone else around us was like, we're going to do 80 miles an hour now, because that's the speed limit. And I was like blown away how people had just forgotten what we had driven through, and now everything was fine now that they hit Colorado. And so over the next hour and a half, we proceeded to see a dozen cars on the side of the road. In fact, both sides of the road, there was 18-wheelers, there was a camper, there was cars, there was trucks. Like, it didn't matter what kind of vehicle. Mm-hmm. If you were driving that fast, you were still going to hit something bad. So it was pretty incredible how short-term memory people have.
So we stopped at the gas station and got some lunch. And right behind it is a Tractor Supply. So we are fueling up with our propane tanks.
So is everybody else.
There's a line. All over my shoes.
And the closer we got to Denver, the conditions improved significantly. Yeah. We had to just go a little north of Denver.
Yeah.
And so it was no problems at all past that.
Once we got on the outskirts, like the suburbs of Denver, the roads were like any other day. I don't think they had as much snow there. There definitely wasn't any ice buildup anywhere on the sides of the road. So then it just felt like a normal day once we got into Denver. So we ended up making the right decision. But
for us,
it
was the right decision. And it's not, Mark was checking road conditions. He's calling, to check road conditions. We're checking the maps. We're checking all the apps. So, we were doing our due diligence. It's just, there isn't a warning that says, hey, P.S. Kansas doesn't really.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared for I don't know what it was about it, but I
just don't think they're as prepared as Colorado. Like, Colorado gets snow, so they know what to do.
Yeah.
But Kansas apparently is just risky it.
After getting propane, we were only about an hour away from our campground, St. Vrain State Park in Longmont, Colorado. In next week's video, we'll give you a tour of the state park, but for now, we just wanted to get to our campsite and relax after this long and stressful day. We're next to the camp house.
Yep.
Good. How relieved are you?
We're here. It was a day.
It was a day, for sure. We're here. We're going to get set up. So, great news. We are pretty much level, except left to right, except for front. And so that makes it really easy. So this should be fairly simple. It's a nice concrete pad. And yeah. Was it one of the scariest things that we've ever like?
It's probably the scariest driving I've ever done. And we've driven the $1 Million Highway, and like, we've gone boondocking in some places where it's rough off-road. But this was like a whole nother level of like, we probably shouldn't be out on the road.
For those of you wondering about the kids, they were sitting in the back with their phones, blissfully, essentially unaware of what was going on.
Yeah.
Other than, ooh, look how pretty the snow is outside. Or like, wow, you can't even see, what over there because it was snowing, out in the field so heavy. So they were perfectly fine. They were nice and quiet so that Mark, could focus on what was going on.
Yeah.
The cats were curled up and sleeping. Like,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and a point you talked about earlier is I downloaded the Colorado DOT app and the Kansas DOT app, and that allowed me to look at webcams, like live cams, of the road conditions up ahead of us. And that was another factor that made me determine, like, okay, if we can just get close, the roads are fine. Yeah. So that first stop at the gas station is when I looked at that stuff and I thought, okay, it's going to get worse, but also, like, I know up ahead it will be okay. So, but yeah, there was a real consideration literally 5 miles into where we started, where we stopped at the gas station. And I thought, maybe we go back to where we started and wait for this to blow over.
Probably one of our scariest drives ever. I'm glad that we continued on. I mean, we had many discussions back and forth on whether we should pull over and get off. But I'm glad that we didn't, because where we ended up was beautiful.
Yeah. And
waking up to seeing the Front Range, of the Rockies was
very gorgeous.
Well worth it. I don't feel at any point though that like in such conditions that like we had made a wrong choice that day. I think we did everything we could do to make it as safe as possible. I think if the winds had continued to blow real hard, the snow started coming down more, I think it would have been no question is to get off the road and stay. Mark did an awesome job. Yeah. Next week, we visit Rocky Mountain National Park at the beginning of winter and do a little hiking while looking for some wildlife. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button. It's free.